Alright, Uncle Dave with DC's Adventures. And it is spring again, which is sweet. It's like first week of March, and I got all these trees. Oh, finger in the way. I got all these trees, gray birch, but I got a bunch of maple, and we want to grow maple here. But this is an area I've been working on for a couple years, and now that it's spring, we're cutting firewood again. So I got to get all these gray birch out of here, and I'm going to cut all the stuff that's thick enough into firewood. And then behind there's a little pond I've been working on, and I'm going to finish that up this spring. I got to take probably another 8 to 10 wheelbarrows of dirt out of there, and then it will be deep enough, and then I'm going to put a liner down. And that pond right there is going to have two uses. One, it's going to be about 1,200 to 1,500 gallons of water that I can use to put the cabin out. The cabin's here if there's ever a fire, and obviously all the other buildings in the yard. So it'll be nice just to have that much water. And you know, the barrels I keep on the side of the cabin freeze in the middle of the winter. If this is deep enough, it'll probably freeze still eventually, but for most of the winter, if I broke through the ice, there would be a layer of water under it. So when everything else is frozen and there's no snow on the ground, I'll have something to put a fire out with. If there's snow on the ground, you can just shovel the snow onto the fire, and it's not the best, but it will work. And my cabin's pretty small, so you know, that would work to keep the fire under control. But it's just a good idea. You have an all wooden cabin to be thinking about that, so you don't lose everything if something happens. You know, if a cabin starts smoking, you need to be able to put it out, which I run a wood stove all year, or all fall, winter, and spring. So it's a good idea to have that planned out. But also this little pond will be a place where I can have frogs in there, and I'll put BT in there, and that doesn't affect the frogs. That won't hurt the frogs, but it'll be a large body of water here by the cabin that the mosquitoes will lay their eggs in, but I'll have BT in there, so it'll kill all the larvae, and that should cut down on the mosquitoes on the property. You know, that'll be the biggest body of water around here that's still, so most of the mosquitoes will choose to put their eggs in there. And then I'll have frogs in there eating them, and then I'll also have BT in there killing all the larvae. And that should help the mosquitoes a little. And then I'm gonna put there's a little hill there where we pushed the dirt up when we first made the driveway. And I'm gonna cover that in rocks, and then put a plastic strip down and cover that in rocks, and then make a little waterfall with a pump. So that way the water will go up, and there'll be a filter at the top, and then it will go through the filter as it runs down. And that'll add a little bit of filtration to the pond, and it will look nice, you know, and attract animals, birds, and stuff. So that's the plan. And once I get these gray birch out, I'll keep these maple trees growing here, and it should look really nice with the leaf changeover in fall. And I'll clean out all this under stuff and get rid of the stumps the best I can, so I can mow in there. And that'll be like a little park area over in this corner by the pond. I have a lot of gray birch, which I do love them. They look really nice with the white, you know, the white on the snow. Like, they have a really weird look to them, and it's a nice pathway. But slowly, as the maples grow up in between the birch, I cut the birch back, because we want to grow maple here. We don't want to grow birch. Like, birch is really good for biomass, so that's why I keep it growing. You know, I could have cut it down when I first got here, when it was only a quarter of the size. But I figured I'd grow it out, and then I'll cut it and chip it and process it, use some of it for firewood, and then a lot of it will become biomass that I can put in the gardens. And like, this is actually the best farming area on my property. This, and over here where I'm already farming. But this is the best area that's left for farming. The rest of it's really sandy because I'm pretty close to the brook. So this area, eventually I am going to clear out and just leave a few maple trees. And you know, I'm trying to keep this I'm trying to keep the trees on the side of the driveway so it looks cool. You know, when all the leaves grow in, there's like a tunnel there for you to go through, which the kids like. And it's nice to have a couple tunnel ways on your carriage road, because it makes it just nicer. So I'm trying to make this whole place practical, while at the same time keeping it like nice and majestic, and like a cool place for the nieces and nephews and people to come up to. So that's what I'm doing today, cutting all this wood, using the electric chainsaw in the village praying, take off all the branches. And then maybe later today or tomorrow, we're gonna take all these branches over to the fire pit, way over there. I also cut a maple in the middle of the yard, which I didn't want to do because it was really pretty changeover on that tree and it was really big, but it was really nice firewood that's really close to camp, and it was blocking out all those has caps in the summer. So cut that down. Now the has cap should grow a lot better and a lot faster, and we should have berries from some has caps this year, so I'm excited to try that. Like, I got one little one off of some of the plants last year and it was interesting, but I don't think it ever ripened up fast enough or well enough because it was just like one berry per plant. So this year I should have, like, I don't know, 10-20 pounds of berries, and then next year I should have thousands of hascap berries, like pounds, thousands of pounds. So yeah, just doing firewood again. Spring, that's what happens. But yesterday, the last 2 days is crazy. I've been pretty broke, so I'm looking for work, and my vehicle hasn't been running well the last 3 or 4 years, but I do everything I can to keep it on the road and keep it going. And I signed up for DoorDash, and I went down. The closest town to me is Lincoln, Maine. And I went down there and did DoorDash on Thursday, and I stayed down there for 8 hours, and I made $11. It was really bad. It was only 2 orders the whole day. And it says that it's busy because the DoorDash app, for some reason, says it's busy when they don't have drivers, even if there's no orders. So the next day, on Friday, I went back down there and worked in the morning, and all morning for 4 hours, I only made $6. So I was like kind of giving up and like figured it wasn't going to work because Lincoln obviously doesn't have a population that will support something like that. And then I was like, okay, whatever, I'm just going to drive to Bangor, which is like another 45 minutes to an hour. So I drove down there, and as soon as I got down there, I started getting orders. I got a bunch of orders, and I was making like $20 an hour, which is pretty good for Maine. Like, it's the lowest I've made since I was a teenager, but up here, it's really hard to get work. There is no work. Here comes a neighbor going by, but there is no work, so I got to try to find something. And it was kind of nice, DoorDash, you can just do it whenever, so I can, you know, do my farming and do the wood and everything, and then on the weekends just go down for 2 days, make a little extra money. But then after about 2 hours of delivering in Bangor, my rear wheel bearing started whining, which I knew that was going to happen. I've replaced everything in the last 2 years on that car for suspension except for the rear wheel bearing. And if you know anything about a Ford Escape, the year I have, the wheel bearing in the rear is in the knuckle or in the control arm. It's not something that you can just take off. It's not a hub assembly. So if you know anything about mechanics, you know what I'm talking about. But like, it is a nightmare. You have to like fabricate the slide hammer to get the bearing out, and then you have to have an on-car bearing press, or you have to take all that off and press it on a press. Absolute nightmare. So I have the parts for years, but I've never done the work because I knew it was going to be just too much of a hassle for me without having a press and everything. So I knew that as soon as I started working, that was probably going to happen. So now I got to either find someone who can fix it, or I got to just take a whack at it and try to fix it. But I just don't want to completely ruin the car because the bearing isn't so bad that I can't go to town to go to the grocery store. Not yet. It probably will be after a couple more trips. But I was pretty disappointed when it went yesterday because I had finally started making money, and I was like, oh, nice. Like, this is actually going to work out. I'm just going to have to drive 2 hours every day to go and work, which sucked. But at least it was something. It was going to be some money. So I was psyched for a minute there. But now I got to fix the bearing in the car. And today's Saturday, so it would have been a good day to go make money down there. But I got firewood to do too. I have a lot of fire. I didn't cut any in fall, so I have to do it all in spring, and I still have about 2.5 cords that I have to come up with. So I'm gonna cut wood for the rest of this week and wait for my dash pass and a bunch of like a pizza bag and all the stuff I need for that job to come. And then hopefully I'll fix the truck in the next week or so, and then hopefully in the next week or two I'll go back to doing that on the weekends. We'll see. Hopefully that works out. But I'm doing a bunch of different stuff on YouTube, and I have a couple different channels that are going now that are going to be very different from this channel. So I'm hoping that that's going to start doing some stuff. And yeah, and then there's this channel, obviously. But yeah, oh, yeah. This next week, as soon as the snow melts, I'll start pulling out the drone more. But I just finally paid that thing off with the controller, because that was like $700 or something. And I got that paid off over like a 3-month period. And now that that's paid off and the snow's melted, I'm going to start using it. It's just the snow was really, like, there's a lot of snow and it was really fluffy for most of the year. So when the drone would fall into it, it'd get wet. And I don't want the drone to get ruined. It's not waterproof. So I'm kind of waiting for the snow to get a little lower before I start flying that thing again. It's also really windy at this time of year. Like when the nights are cold and the days are warm, we get really high winds here. So it's kind of too windy to use it anyways. This is a really light drone. So as soon as it gets a little nice and a little sunnier, look forward to seeing some drone videos of the beautiful countryside of Maine. Because I'll be doing a lot more. Got a couple of the camps out in the woods on the property that we're going to be working on. We're going to work on this little fishing hut out by this fishing spot that I have on the brook. And there's a couple more things I'm going to do this summer. So look forward to that. And I'm going to get back to cutting firewood. So I'll see you guys in a couple days probably. Uncle Dave with Deece's Adventures. Check you later.